Hello and welcome to our channel, Vedic Solutions, preparing for the coming of the Golden Age. And I am your host, Harinama Chintamani. What I'd like to talk to you today is about what I have been hearing lately on the internet that I find so concerning. There are very well-meaning people who are in support of morality returning and of a proper ruling of our government and governments all over the world, where there's freedom of speech and where proper family values are brought back. And yet, what I'm also hearing is that many of these people have become persuaded by, I'm not even sure what words to use for this, because sometimes it sounds like comic book, science fiction, new age, a lot of speculation. And how they've arrived at this and who they're hearing from goes far back, some decades, when people started talking about various star systems, how we're a slave planet. We were created from a particular alien species. There's a galactic federation. Our planet is going to ascend. We're all going to be telepathic. There's going to be a very high level of technology with all sorts of underground transportation. There's a lot that people believe right now. So the Vedic literatures, which are in existence from the beginning of time and were only written down 5,000 years ago, talk about all the various levels of planetary systems. It's extremely extensive. And in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you are interested, you can study it. So just to put in a point here, you might find a value. One of the devotees of Srila Prabhupada was studying the 5th canto, and he was studying the planetary orbits. Now, the measurements that they give is different than our measurements. And as a mathematician, he was able over time to convert those measurements into our measurements. And he found that these ancient books had the orbits of the planets almost exactly the same as ours. So what the discussion is around what are these different planetary systems, it isn't that we are part of, okay, let me backtrack. It isn't that there's this council of planets and beings who are all observing planet Earth and the choices that we're making here and deciding whether we can be part of the council or whether we're going to destroy ourselves or whether we're going to become enlightened and all ascend. No, no, no. So the description is this: Earth is a middle planet. This is the planet where there is karma. This is the planet where by our activities, we either go to the higher planetary systems or to the lower planetary systems, or we stay here. We might de-evolve into a lower species of life. The soul remains the same, but we might get a different vehicle. We might get a vehicle that's very ignorant. If we had all opulences in this life and we misuse them, we might not even get a human form in the next life. And then it's an automatic progression back up to the human form where there's choice. Only in the human form is there karma because we have choice. In the lower species, that is something where we have gotten that body due to our past sinful activities, and we're playing it out. And another thing, when we put pets to sleep because we feel they're suffering too much, we actually cause that animal to have to take birth again in that body to play out the whole number of years that that living being was supposed to be in that body. So it's not a good thing to put our pets to sleep. What is good is to feed them spiritual foodstuffs and to chant the holy names to them, because we can actually change the trajectory of any soul by giving them purified, offered foodstuffs, including water, and chanting the holy names. How extraordinary is that? So in these higher planetary systems, there are very, very elevated personalities. In the same way as on this planet, we can't just go to any country we want. There's some rules. In the higher planets, it's the same way. To enter into these planets, one must have a body suitable. That means one needs to have performed a certain level of pious activities so that when one leaves this body, one is transferred to one of these higher planets. There's a lot of information that you will find so extraordinary beyond your wildest imaginations. For example, we say we went to the moon, but we bring back rocks and they're dead. But the moon is luminous. How is the moon luminous? According to the Vedas, the moon is actually a heavenly planet, and the ground is made of jewels that reflect the sun. And the living beings on the moon planet, their bodies are much more subtle. So our bodies are made of earth, water, air, fire, mind, intelligence, and false ego. The bodies there are much finer. Our bodies are very gross, very much earth, right? And a lot of water, but not ether, not refined like that. There's also, isn't this interesting, passageways through the universe that higher living beings actually know how to utilize to travel to other planets. Did we ever hear such a thing? And they actually have ships that are not spaceships. They're actually exquisitely beautiful. And they move by the power of mantra and the power of the mind. So subtle and beautiful, far beyond anything we could ever imagine. So, in our last video, we talked about how there are different ways of acquiring knowledge. We can utilize our mind and our senses, which are imperfect, or we can receive that knowledge from a higher source. That's called descending knowledge. And that is the knowledge that's available in these Vedic literatures. So the Lord, in creating us, did not just leave us to try to figure it all out on our own. According to Bhagavad-gita, he comes himself on a regular basis. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a chapter called Scheduled Incarnations. Did you know that thousands of years before Lord Buddha appeared, it was described where he would appear, the name of his mother, the name of his father. The Lord who created this intricately ordered universe did not leave anything to chance. And he also sends his pure representatives. He sent Lord Jesus, and he sent Prophet Muhammad to teach people in a particular time and place. There's also lineages of knowledge that have come down from the beginning of creation. He sent Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada is part of a lineage that goes back to the beginning of creation. What a wonderful place to get our knowledge from, so that we don't have to hear from those who are speculating. And if we think about progress being technical, that is not progress. The fact that doors open and close, or the fact that we can drive cars, it has not created a better world. The fact that we are taken away from nature, the fact that we're not growing our own food, that's not progress. The fact that we've been taken away from each other, that we don't have gatherings with one another, that we are always looking at our devices and hardly even know how to communicate with each other anymore. That is not progress. So that is not going to be the direction of the Golden Age. The direction of the Golden Age is going to be very, very different. Mother Earth is happy to give her opulences. But right now, we have become so perverted, so atheistic. We give no credit to God. We defy God in every way that we can. But if we want to live in a loving relationship with the Lord, and religion means there is God, and there is we living created beings who are meant to follow the laws of God, and by following the laws of God, we benefit. We become happy. We become strong. We become moral and just. And we create a very different planet. And we reawaken the love in our heart. And at the end of this life, we have an opportunity to go back to the spiritual world, to be with the Lord again, which is our eternal home. Nobody wants to go through birth, old age, disease, and death again and again. And yet if we stay in this material world, that is what will happen. And why are we here? We're here because we have so many desires to enjoy separately from the Lord. So the Lord gives us free will. That's the meaning of love. So I can choose to use my free will to turn away from God, and I can choose to turn towards God. I can actually take that free will and put it back where it belongs, at the feet of the Lord, and say, my Lord, from this day on, I am yours. And the Lord promises that when someone says that from the core of their heart, that He will protect them. Now, protection doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to go our way, and our child is going to make it to the university of our choice, and we're not going to have any diseases, and there's not going to be war, and we're not going to die. Protection means that from that moment on, the Lord will guide our lives, life after life, if we have to come back. And He will bring us closer and closer to Him. He will bring people in our life, and books in our life, and situations that create in us a desire to love Him, to know Him, to be with Him. Because when we have that, we will be protected from this dangerous material world that has us going up and down so many species of life. Yeah, sometimes we can go to these higher planets. But if we have not developed that love in our heart, then we'll come back here and again go through so much suffering. So the point of Krishna consciousness, of Christ consciousness, of God consciousness, is to finally realize who we are in relationship to the Lord, in that loving relationship, and go back with Him and serve Him with love in His abode in the spiritual world. And really, that is the deepest desire in the heart of every living being. But when we come to this world, we become so covered by ignorance and passion that we forget our own soul, who we are, and why we're here. So I encourage all of you, please do take advantage of our website, purelyprabhupada.com. You'll find so many resources there. And the lectures of Srila Prabhupada are there. So wonderful to hear his voice and to be guided and enlightened. So many lectures. And all of Prabhupada's books, the unchanged, unedited versions, are available online. Some of you are in Europe, and it's very hard to get the books there, but they are available for you online. So thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna.